So Project. This is a podcast for people engaging in the never-ending process of expansion and growth. So the purpose of this podcast is to expand and grow through awareness, introspection, and stillness. We fundamentally understand that relative to all there is to know, we know relatively nothing. So with this in mind, we will consider and reconsider interesting perspectives, ideologies, and strategies for the purpose of self-actualization. Josiah, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about comparison and expectations.
Ooh, a juicy one.
Yeah.
Can you get us started with some definitions just so we know what we're talking about?
Yeah, so I'll start with comparison. And by the way, these are not necessarily my definition, but
I love how you clarify that on every episode.
Yeah, I want people to understand the baseline there. But comparison is the act of measuring oneself against others or external standards. It can offer insight, but often distorts self-awareness by shifting focus from personal growth to relative value.
Interesting. So pausing here before we move on to definition of expectations, it sounds like this is kind of excluding internal comparison. If you're comparing to a former version of yourself, is that external or is that internal? I don't really know.
I think that's both. It's intrinsically motivated,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's what the definition is describing whenever it says it can offer insight.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that. What about expectations?
Yeah, expectations. Expectations are mental projections of desired outcomes. They guide intention, but can create tension when reality diverges from what was imagined, requiring balance between hope and acceptance.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I like this definition. It's like the cool uncle definition. They're like, I'm going to tell you what it is. Like, basically, it's a mental projection of your desired outcome. But hey, look out for how it can create some tension.
Yeah,
you know,
very avuncular, and
I gotta use that word.
That's you
before I
gave the
die,
definition
know,
of it already, so I figure I'd just give you the term.
Yeah, no, that's helpful.
Yeah, it is. I think it's a very wise definition. It's someone that's kind of, had some expectations, and maybe in actuality, the expectations are, what happened, the events didn't live up to the expectation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of pain and suffering that can come from that, for sure.
Or liberation. You never know.
Does liberation come from expectation?
I think it comes from, how they describe the divergence, right? Sometimes you may put too much weight on the expectation, and whenever reality diverges, I think really actuality diverges from what was imagined, you may look back and say, damn, I'm actually glad that didn't work out that way. To reference a conversation earlier, right? You're talking about transitioning into your 30s from your 20s,
mm-hmm.
and how you're realizing that, some of the striving that you did in your 20s, it really did not align with what you value now. Right?
Oh my gosh. Wow. Way to pull that all together. That's impressive because it's absolutely true. Like, this is a good break in expectations. We don't often think about breaks or surprises when it comes to expectations being a good thing. Mm-hmm. I know, like, in the in the recruiting work that I do, we talk about this a lot, how the worst possible thing is a surprise. We want the folks that we hire to be as advertised as we thought that they were, right? Mm-hmm. And it's usually a negative surprise whenever there's a big break in expectations there. So that's interesting that it can go both ways. I like that. That's the whole point. That's what we're trying to do here, is to be more holistic, more comprehensive in our perspective. Because we spend so much of our lives in such a narrow frame of reference, and it's limiting, and it can, I think in many ways we form our own mental prisons. There's no shortage of examples of ways that we do that. So,
Right. Comparison definitely does that.
yes, it does.
And I think if we set our, I know you're going to get into other stuff.
Yeah.
But I'll preface the rest of the conversation with, if we allow comparison to set our expectations, sometimes that can really be a trap.
And like, I can think of very few instances where expectation is not contaminated by comparison. And I'm using emotionally charged language, and I realize that, and it's reflective of a very real internal bias that I have against comparison. Because comparison is so natural. I was talking about, the hiring work that we do. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's literally a race, and the finish line, the proverbial finish line here, is who is the best fit for the position. It's literally the terminology that we use. And it's, I do a lot of reframing around this when it comes to our clients and talking about, candidate A being better than candidate B, so on and so forth. And that I think even further distorts the image, because it's not about how good one candidate is or, how bad another is. It's about their alignment with the role. Do their natural characteristics, the characteristics that they were born with and have cultivated over time, what is their level of alignment with what we know produces success in the position? So you guys can come across the most incredible person that you have ever met, blows your mind, and they also may just so happen to not be a good fit for the position.
Right.
I mean, and it's jarring when this happens. This has happened to me a fair bit because I do this a lot. But it's always surprising each and every time when you meet someone that, with what we do, there is a lot of we're popping the hood. We're checking out the internals. That's what predictive hiring is all about. But at surface value, I would just think any of my clients would hire this person in a heartbeat, because the window dressing is so beautiful. They have all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, every box on the checklist is checked. But when you really peek behind the curtain, you find that, and this is not a reflection of the quality of this person. It's just a reflection of their fit for the role. And sometimes it's not ideal.
Yeah, highlighting their, in this case, professional growth. The definition says personal growth.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, are they aware of their ability to adapt in the role? And have they shown a track record of their ability to adapt in other roles and grow, and then grow the team invariably?
Right.
And I think that's the only question that needs to be answered. But then when we start to compare them, to other candidates, then the relative value comes into play, and that distorts things.
Right.
Yeah.
I love your tapping into one of the most important aspects in the hiring process is this adaptability. What is their level of flexibility and comfort with ambiguity, essentially, and willingness to fit a new mold when circumstances change. And then sometimes we're looking for people who are naturally resistant to that, which is totally counterintuitive. But it's because we want them to follow a structured process.
Right.
We want them to adhere to SOPs, to color within the lines. Like I think about, my financial clients, right? And how essential it is for them to be very compliance driven. So I don't know. This just goes to show how comparison to a benchmark and external expectations can act on us and often lead us to the wrong result. The flip side of that is that if we did not have an ability to compare, if we somehow lived in a world where we didn't have expectations, like we had an expectation that we were gonna be here at a certain time this morning to record the podcast. This is a bad example because we were late.
I think we were in our window.
Right. No,
But
no,
but we were
it's true.
late
But
for
we
the-
adjusted,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, like, so.
we reset expectations.
Right. This is all beside the point, but kind of a funny aside. The point is that we depend on people to do the things that they say that they will do in order for our greater overall system to work.
Right.
So expectations in that sense they're essential. It's kind of like, okay, let's meet at 2 p.m. today, but we don't have access to a clock. So we're going
Right.
to try to gauge it based off the sun or something. It's just,
Consistency.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, do we expect the sun to consistently come up at the same time? I mean,
Thankfully it does.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and I think comparison is very useful, and I'm probably going to get to
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
but comparison is very useful when we're engaging in metaphorical comparison, because I think that actually drives an internal process. So, like, do you know about metaphorical comparison?
No, please enlighten me and our listeners.
It's just whenever you can observe a process and then somehow find a way to apply that process or create a similar process in a different environment.
Okay. Can we have an example?
Yeah, so let's see. I talk about in the book, Double Slip,
Mhm.
that's out.
Woo! Go get that book.
I talk about observing iterations, right? And then accelerating those iterations in your mind
Mm,
and then applying that to real life.
this kind of sounds like forecasting a little bit.
It could be,
Mhm.
but I mean, I think when you're observing something that's consistent, there is a degree of forecasting.
Oh, yeah.
But you have to also understand that you have one vantage point
Right.
relative to other vantage points. And it's a matter of aggregating all those vantage points to find perspective and then applying that perspective in a completely different manner to solve a problem elsewhere.
Okay.
Right? So we observe nature, like the
Mhm.
sun or gravity or whatever.
Yeah.
It allows us to actually innovate, sometimes create new technologies, right? Sometimes, improve quality of life. And I think our ability to set expectations and then somehow adapt when those expectations are diverged from,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Allows us to then do what?
Innovate.
Right.
This is incredible because, it's like literally laws of nature, laws of gravity. We didn't always have these. There was a time before these were established and documented, but once they are established and documented and taught, and that information diffuses through, humankind, it opens up. We can reason at the next level. We have safety in those base layer assumptions. So expectations in that sense are absolutely fundamental to learning and knowledge and growth and the advancement of humankind. I say that kind of sheepishly because I think that might be a goal for some, the advancement of humankind, but I think oftentimes it's not the goal at all. The goal is acquisition or self maximization, things like that. But in theory, it is also essential and fundamental to human development. Period.
Yes. Yeah. I think it indirectly, at the very least,
Mhm.
leads to human development or evolution or growth. However we want to frame it.
Right.
And I do think that's something that we're going to get into.
Yeah.
But I do want to
Me too.
kind of ask, like, where do you think expectations are derived from?
Yes. So I think that there are, and this is like, this is the stuff I love right here, because I think that there is we have intrinsic preferences and abilities. There is some form of nature here, like a genetic predisposition. The reason that I'm leading with this is because I think it pales in comparison to the nurture or to the environmental, the circumstantial piece of the puzzle. Like, I think we may have really high standards in some cases based off of our own natural inclinations and predispositions. But I think by and large, our expectations come from what is normal to us. So that's like, that goes back to family life. What are the values? I was raised in a household where achievement and work ethic were values that were put up on a pedestal. And so naturally, those became values for me, and they became part of my expectations, both internally for myself and externally for what I expect from others. And you get out into the world, like kindergarten, elementary school, and you realize that there are so many different people on this planet, and they have wildly different expectations of you, of themselves, and of others. And so it's kind of like a level setting. I think to present day, my objective is to go into relationships without expectations because I do not have the context for that individual. And if I can be, and I, credit to you for kind of leading this way of thinking and relating. But if I can go in and just observe and accept, then it's like water and sunlight for a plant. Yeah. It just opens up all of the possibilities there. Instead, expectation is kind of like shade and malnutrition for that plant. It just can really stunt its growth. Yes. So I don't know. What do you think about where expectations come from?
I definitely think the process of expectation is observed. And I think it definitely comes from your environment. Right, so as early as you can remember or recall,
these are just explicit memories. Not to mention the implicit memories that start taking place in the womb.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just going to reference the book again, but there's a segment or piece where I talk about how, or from what I've observed, how there'll be parents in our previous building, and their child would like look at us in the elevator or stare or and the parent would maybe stop them from doing that.
Right.
But that set that expectation in that kid's mind, and some of these children like they couldn't even like speak yet. Right. But I could see that they were observing that.
Wheels are turning.
Right. And they were like, wait, this is something I'm not supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. What message does that send?
Yeah. And whether it's positive or negative, I don't know. But I know that it comes, expectations in a lot of ways are observed. And there is some element of safety and adaptability that allows the environment to put those expectations in place and teach the observer or the next generation or whoever, like, this is what you have to do to survive. And like, I think, the further along you get in life, you start to realize that, wait, maybe I don't have to do this. The expectations start to erode.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about the transition from 20s to 30s.
Yeah.
Right. And, some of those earlier expectations that we have as children, as, young adults, getting out of college, getting into our jobs, and then realizing like, wait, do I want to do this for the next 40 years?
Right.
Regardless of where you do it at.
Right.
Right.
Or what you're doing.
Or what you're doing. Yeah. And then you start to evaluate. You start to observe. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that everyone has to go to the degree that I went to. But if I had that same set of expectations, there would be a lot of things that I didn't attempt to do
Mm-hmm.
that if they hit or when they hit, I'm going to be so grateful, and it's going to impact my environment in ways that I may not ever get to see, and they may be very positive things. And for me, it's worth eroding some of those expectations, and maybe how I'm looked at or the relative value that I have, as a 37-year-old with really bad credit and you know, you know, currently just trying to find a place to live and, standing up a company and, writing a book and or finishing a book and publishing it. But, if I compare myself to others that are 37, um, or accept their expectations or comparison of me,
Mm,
I may be stunted
yeah.
in my personal growth. I may shift the focus to relative value. And I just think that'd be a shame.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Because, it's, I even hesitate to use the word race, but watching someone on their own race, and I'm using that word because we live at such a fast pace and it's always more, faster, better, you know, um, and thinking that you should be where they are at is foolhardy just because we are not on the same track. We're not traveling the same pathway.
Yeah.
It's a very dangerous way to live if you think about just kind of the mechanics of it and driving yourself into a brick wall or driving yourself into situations and experiences that are just not right for you.
Yeah.
And I back to your example in the elevator. First off, why do you think this little kid is staring?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm happy to say I don't know, but I love that they're observing their
Me too.
environment and the participants in their environment. And I think that's very natural.
Yeah.
I think that's a great thing to cultivate.
Yeah.
And I I think for the most part that was cultivated in me. Maybe that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of, or maybe I just naturally observe things because I'm like a youngest or younger sibling.
Okay.
Um, so it just comes natural. But I love that. I love to see children in a very, high activity environment, and
Mm-hmm.
very still and observant
Yeah.
of that environment.
Ah,
I love that.
so beautiful. It's such a state of like wonder and awe.
Mhm.
And it's so ironic that what is the first thing we do to children? So we like put rules around their behavior.
Right.
And okay, please don't take this as me saying that you should just let your children run free and wild.
Right. No, no, no.
All that stuff. But I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking about what if, right? It's a fun game to play. What if it was a situation where we say, it's rude to stare at people without greeting them. Say hello.
Say hello. Yeah.
It's inviting experience as opposed to just shutting it down. And don't take, my word is not bond here. I'm also not a parent, so I'm not
Right.
qualified at all to speak on this topic. But I just think, like, how do we encourage curiosity, exploration, and openness, not stifle it, while also setting them up for success in the social world? It's like our grammar and the rules of grammar and syntax,
Mhm.
right? 90% of people don't know them, don't know what they are, but we abide by them,
Right.
right? And so, how do we apply that to the human experience in childhood and say, hey, these are some of the unwritten rules.
Yeah.
If you stare at people, it can make them feel uncomfortable, but there's a little trick you can do that totally reduces that discomfort, and it's a friendly greeting. Hey, how's your day going?
Right. And to me, the answer is very simple.
What is it?
We demonstrate it.
Oh my
What
gosh.
if that parent actually turned to me and said, "Hey, how you doing?"
Yeah.
Right? That's a little different
Right.
than saying, "Oh, don't,"
Yeah.
right? That's very. I mean, it
It's
does the thing
feels
you are
completely
talking
different.
about,
Yeah.
and it's not just parenting. I mean, like anytime we are setting expectations around behavior,
Mm-hmm.
as long as things are relatively safe,
Yeah.
I think for the most part, it's general curiosity. And if we are encouraging that in our environment by demonstrating it, challenging our own expectations of ourselves, well, wait, why is that person staring? Or
Yeah.
why am I, you know, shunning this? Or why am I, appalled by this?
Right.
And then, like, that curiosity may lead to that person challenging the expectations that were inherited from others and set upon them,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Wow. Mind is kind of blown right now because I love how we're able to take this situation that I think everyone has been party to and just swap the no to maybe it's a yes and.
Yeah,
Like we can do this and we also do this and this is how we make it all work.
yeah.
Um, yeah, beautiful. I like that. Next question for us. What expectations are our own versus what do we inherit from others? And how do we tease them apart to know the difference? Because this is kind of like goes back to the values component. It's like really, really hard in your adult life to distinguish what are your values and what are the values that you just accepted at a much earlier point in life and haven't examined or questioned since then. And what actually matters to you today and why? Because
Right.
if you cannot demonstrate the why, it's probably a sign that it needs further examination.
Yeah, I agree. I think if I'm going to answer that question,
Yeah.
considering the context of my life right now, I think when it comes to the rules in this monetary system
Mm-hmm.
that we're in and the expectations that we place on friends, family members, strangers, um, without actually getting the context and applying moral judgment in some cases.
Oh my gosh.
Like, we want to see if you're a good person. Let's run your credit score.
Right.
How does that correlate?
This is your determination of trustworthiness.
Right.
Is your credit score.
If you're below 680, you're going to hell.
Right.
Like,
Basically.
yeah, it's just it. It's I'm sort of living through some of that
Yeah.
with a greater purpose and goal
Mhm.
in mind, and knowing what it is that I want to accomplish and how I want to do it, and constantly keeping my focus on the personal growth and trying to evolve as an entrepreneur, as some may say a thought leader.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
I would.
And thank you. And it's tough. It's tough because, a lot of these expectations I had inherited
Mm-hmm.
and I've had to erode them. And it's been painful,
Yeah.
right? I never in a million years would have thought I'd be where I'm at. But I'm actually pretty grateful. Um, there's a lot of liberation.
To be grateful for it in the moment too, that is rare. I mean, there is an abundance of stories out there. We could survey 100 people in this building, and I would be shocked if we found one who did not have an example of a very challenging experience in their life, but something really, really good that came out of that experience, something that they learned, something that happened that wouldn't have otherwise occurred. Um, but I think there's a similar statistic around like inability to recognize that in the moment.
Yeah.
And when we cannot recognize that this is part of a larger narrative and one that has some positive aspects to it, I mean, we have a term for that. It's the feeling of despair,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the tricky thing about despair, I don't think despair is inherently bad. I just think it's kind of like a blocker.
It
It
is.
really, it's an inhibitor. That's
Yeah.
the word that I'm
Yeah.
looking for. It inhibits action. And we live in a world that is so action dependent, because it's kind of built on this foundation of achievement. And, I, I have no problem with achievement at all. I just think it's in which direction are we oriented, right?
Right.
What are we achieving?
Right.
I don't think we talk about that very often.
Don't think we talk
like
about that.
it's
Not
this
enough.
the same thing as, or very similar to the way in which we praise work ethic, but we don't talk about value to society.
Yeah.
How did this get overlooked here? It's not just about running. If you're trying to get to a destination, it's about running in the right direction.
Right.
And it's kind of like we're running as fast as we can. We just don't know where we're going.
Right. Is it adaptive? Is it really allowing us to have a better quality of life and existence? And, is it going to allow us to go well beyond where we currently are? Is it going to expand and in some ways disrupt most things that we know?
Yeah.
I think the mind is capable of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we collaborate, right? Like I think I truly inherited the expectation of collaboration
Interesting.
from my family environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a larger
Mm-hmm.
family. And so like I naturally gravitate towards that.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've had to learn is that to find the appropriate forum.
Oh.
And I think where I'm at in my 30s, right?
Mhm.
It's like it's probably, I'm more digestible in this format or a book. Like I'm probably going to write 4 or 5 more books.
I hope you do.
Just because it's like, it's just I think it's easier like to have the conversation with people
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not really there in some way.
I understand what you're saying right now. Like it clicks for me.
Yeah. So, but also I think I'm encouraging the process of observation
Mm-hmm.
and using that comparison not to shift people away from personal growth, but actually to get them to double down on it.
Yeah.
Right? It's a difference between stating things, but also, or not also, but and getting people to challenge some of their beliefs about themselves and some of their expectations for themselves
Right.
and others.
Right.
Because I think in a lot of ways, if we don't challenge those expectations that we have of ourselves, that we've inherited in some ways, it just leads to maladaptive behavior, in my opinion.
It's kind of like a runaway train.
Yeah.
It's I don't know the direction of the train because I don't know what your expectations are, but I do know that it's possible that you didn't choose them.
Right.
And it's possible if you haven't thought critically about them and examined them that they're not taking you in a direction that you want to go. Furthermore, I think it's more likely than not that if you did not set the direction, that it is likely not going the way that you want it to go.
Right.
And I think that this is one of so many social determinants of why we have such a fragmented society and why we have such a hard time collaborating and why we have at least, in certain pockets of the world, we have the bandwidth to sit and think and reflect. Mm-hmm. And when you leave, when basic needs are satisfied and you give human beings time and space to think about their lives and their role in the greater community, society, the world, they start thinking about these funny concepts like meaning and purpose and what do they really want? You know, when we remove the survival lens, we open up to just different thought patterns, right? And I think we've created that space, and we are creating more of those spaces in a way, and it's leading people to question and to think. And this is, I mean, like, gosh, prime example is like this podcast.
Yeah.
Right. This podcast is all about, as somebody was asking me about it the other day at an event, and I was like, it's kind of exhausting. You know, like I love it. I could do this all day. I know you could too.
Yeah.
But it's applying critical thinking
Yeah.
to everything. And as a result, it goes so much more slowly. You know, it's very, very hard to move with extreme speed and also critically assess everything in your environment. You know, it's the last example of this when it comes to my wife and I, Rachel, we're playing a game called Split Fiction right now, which is it's a very fast-paced game, and it's shockingly, jarringly different from some of the other games we've played where there's little bitty hidden gems tucked all around different places in the game, and you have to painstakingly explore every, you know, square foot of area in the game so that you don't miss the gems that are waiting there for you. Versus this other game that we just started playing, it is you're going as fast as you can, and that's the value of the game. There's no time to stop and pause and think. It's like this constant state of flow, just making it through the game. And if you wait too long, something's going to catch you. You're going to die. But to bring this full circle and put a little bow on it, I think that the game that we're playing right now, where it's all fast paced and the past is disappearing behind you, that is more reflective of the world in which we live today, because we have a game where the stakes are very, very high. The game is very challenging for most of us. It's very, very challenging. And you just don't have time to sit and think and reflect and to question and to examine all of the things that are ultimately creating your life, because we're just so busy trying to navigate it, trying to survive it.
Right. Especially in a monetary system.
Especially, well, that's kind of what I'm alluding to with the game.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I think a critical factor of a game, and something that makes a game, is that the point is just to play it. There is no point, you know? I mean, like, and our game and a monetary system is wealth maximization, right? And so, and it's a game that can transcend your lifetime because of the illusion that heritable wealth is like just purely beneficial, right? Which some people that have extreme wealth recognize that it's not. Like the Buffetts are a great example of this, right? They're, you know, Warren Buffett is like, I'm giving each of my kids $100,000, which, don't get me wrong, is a huge sum of money, but it is also a pittance compared with Warren Buffett's overall net worth.
Right.
And so he did this because, and I hate to speak for him, but just he's realized that when extreme wealth is given and not earned, it oftentimes is more detrimental than it is beneficial.
Right. And that's where I'm at right now. Like, I'm earning whatever is coming my way. I'm definitely earning it.
Hard fought and won.
Yeah. And I was telling telling my wife this the other day. I said, you know, I would love, you know, for someone to come and cut us a check, you know.
Yeah.
You know, so we can really get this thing going.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, week after week, hardship after hardship, it's going to feel, you know, really good. It's going to be gratifying.
Oh, my gosh.
But also the humbling experience of having to build it and having to, you know, really cultivate the leadership within that I didn't really know was there.
Yeah.
Like I've always kind of done the little work,
Mm-hmm.
but to have the people come along and be like, I see you.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
And there's nothing there.
Right. It's
you
just
know,
a
like,
vision.
yeah. And,
Yeah.
you know, that to me, you know, maybe for the second book, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's a heck of a story. I hope we come
Oh my
through on
gosh.
top. I think we will. But, you know, I'm just thinking about how there are people who maybe they don't really earn it and they know it.
Mm-hmm.
They know it.
You can't forget it.
And they can't forget it. And they're doing what? They're looking over their shoulder. They're insecure about it. And it leads to a lot of, just, you know, from what I've observed, it leads to a detrimental impact in the environment.
Mm-hmm.
They're not ready for the power
Right.
because they weren't really powerful to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think if you can really build something from the ground up, it takes an emotional resilience.
Oh yeah.
You know, I faced some hardships
Yeah.
this week.
Yeah.
I mean, God.
Like most people just won't experience, you know?
Talk about despair,
Yeah.
right? But also, you know, I realize, you know, now there are people that are working with us and they're excited.
Oh yeah.
And, you know, I want to be able to create that environment. We are, you know, we're creating that environment for them. And it sucks that we are having to go the long way and having to build it from the ground. But I think we'll be ready for the power that comes with it.
That is a price worth paying. So one of my favorite metaphors for suffering is the carving out of a larger container. You know, so say the world just wants to give you a windfall of blessings in your life, and you have a container and it can only hold so much, right? But it's that process of pain and suffering that broadens and deepens the container, and allows you to capture more of it. And don't take this as like an acquisition endeavor. This is about enjoyment.
Yeah.
You know, it's about actually being able to be present in the moment of your greatest success and to savor it. One of my favorite authors and thought leaders, Mo Gaudat, he talks about how he's wildly successful individual author, you know, chief business officer of Google X, you know, at a time. And he talks about one of his greatest regrets in life is not enjoying the victory because he was so consumed by the next mountain to climb.
Right.
And I just think, oh my gosh, you paid the price.
Right.
You know, like pause, enjoy this. Don't sacrifice everything on the altar of achievement, including your happiness.
Right. Yeah. Funny story. As I published Double Slit like a couple weeks ago. And, you know, and thinking through our financial hardship.
Yeah.
I didn't even like stop to celebrate it. And I was challenged. You know, like, hey, you do understand. Like you're an author. Like you just published this thing. Have you stopped to celebrate? And I was like, no, I haven't. Yeah. Because it's not making me any money. Mm-hmm. Right? Like
not
what
yet.
A distortion.
Yeah. Oh
right?
my gosh.
You know, to think back, being at my kitchen island at, 4:35 a.m. in the morning, working on this consistently 4 or 5 days a week, and to finally see it in print, and to not even celebrate, a year and a half, almost 2 years of my life, where I had to show discipline and grit and determination and spite of what was going on at that time, and not celebrating it because of I didn't make any money off of it the first day it was published.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Right. But that's the natural conclusion in a monetary system is the worthiness of any endeavor is determined and dictated by its financial performance.
Right. And it's like, well, you do understand that it takes a month for the sales to generate the cash in your account, right? So it's just like it's only been a day or it's only been a couple of weeks. Okay.
No, I'm so sorry.
I was gonna say the second example is like, we were pitching for like investment for our MVPs.
Yeah.
And I was so prepared. I went into this meeting and was grilled for like almost an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And if there were 10 questions that I needed to answer correctly, I answered 9.5.
Yeah.
Like it was pretty good.
I believe it because I know how you prepare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when I walked out, I was a little distraught because they didn't say, okay, here's a check.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was talking to one of my advisors and he was like, dude, you do understand that no one walks into a pitch and gets a check. And I was like, yeah, I get it. But like, I really need one for my current situation.
Yeah.
And he was like, you got to celebrate the fact that you didn't just like melt down in there. You killed it.
Yeah.
Right. Like most people can't do that, what you do. And no one, by the way, gets a check.
Yeah.
So like you're up
expectation.
there. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And because he's like, I've been one of those people that have been in pitches and tried to, raise funds. And the fact that you're not even like that, it was just normal for you. You got to celebrate that.
Yeah.
Right. But my view of myself was distorted because of the relative value that I put on the check size.
Yeah.
Right. And ultimately they said no, but they didn't say no because like I think the first statement was like, we think really highly of you and your team.
Yeah.
Right. But we're gonna pass. But it's not because of you guys. It's really more of our structure.
Right.
Right. And so I needed to stop and celebrate and think about how well I helped myself and the team prepare for that pitch. And yeah, I think to your point, like we really have to, celebrate ourselves and whenever we actually our achievements lead to personal growth.
Yes.
And stop comparing it so much to the relative value of the game that we're in.
Right.
It's a game.
The yardstick
right.
of, financial success. I can't help but think of one of my favorite books and just the immense amount of work that went into the creation of The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And then released in 1988, and then had really marginal success. Basically no success in the first year. Got picked up by a bigger publisher, got a little bit more acclaim after that. But it was 6 years before it really blew up. Got picked up by an American publisher, and was just... Then it went on to receive, I don't know how many awards and be translated into, tons of different languages and make its way around the globe and, eventually find its way to me at a time when I really needed it. I've read that book more times than I can count. Another example, so at least for The Alchemist, it was recognized. It took 6 years, right, to really get its due, which is tough. Because I think it's so natural to have the expectation when it's been a labor of love and when you've poured so much of your heart and soul into something that people are going to recognize that. Great quote from the book, when you have treasures within you and you tell people of them, it's very seldom that they will believe you.
Yeah. Especially the people that are closest to you, like family
Interesting.
members.
Yeah. I think there's a fear of hopefulness there because they, oftentimes the people close to you, and this is the hope, right, is that they are conspiring in your success.
Right.
They want to see you succeed. Um, but remember, to hope is vulnerable
Right.
and scary.
Yeah.
And if you dare to hope and dream on someone's behalf, you are also daring to experience the pain of loss and failure that they might also experience. Just remember, we are by nature, by design, we like to minimize risks.
Yeah.
Risks are very, very scary to us.
Right.
And so I think that oftentimes even the people closest to us, thinking that they're helping, try to reel in expectations and set a lower bar, a lower goal.
Yeah.
And gosh, what a travesty if the creators and the artists and the thought leaders that have created the foundation that we stand upon today had set their bar a little bit lower,
Yeah.
had failed to dream and envision.
Yeah. And I think that's well said.
Thank you.
I think that, they are conspiring for our success. And I think if, or at least from what I've observed, it's incumbent upon the thought leaders and creators that are, budding to help their loved ones understand that it's okay to be afraid for me.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
But
that
you don't
is
have to
really
conspire.
hard to do.
Yeah, you don't have to conspire for my survival. You have to help cultivate my success.
mm-hmm.
Tell me what I'm missing.
Yeah.
Help me understand that. But understand that I'm on a different path and journey.
It's a very big ask because when we're in a fearful state, the first thing to go offline is the prefrontal cortex. That is where critical thinking occurs in our brain. No prefrontal cortex, no critical thinking.
Right.
And so I think when people really care, when they're really invested, it's a double-edged sword. Cuts both ways because, oh my gosh, we need that. That is probably the most valuable substance in the world. It's love.
Yeah, it is.
But at the same time, love, the other side of love is fear.
It is.
And the fear of loss of this valuable thing
Fear
that
of
we
loss.
have. And so you just can't fault the people that care the most, especially when you've set out to do something big, like what you are doing right now. And I think there's few people that really understand and appreciate the scope of it, because this is how we respond to ideas before they're a reality.
Yeah.
It's hard to contextualize,
Yeah.
right? And so mixing that with the table stakes almost inevitably in these situations, you have to go all in.
That word, inevitable,
But,
right?
Yeah.
Have you been reading Double Slip? Because I talk about how you can't avoid that.
Right.
Right. What's inevitable is with, sometime within the next 80 years, I will be gone.
Yeah.
That's inevitable.
Yeah.
So whatever, my friends, family members, whoever they're very close to me and they're afraid of loss, they have to understand something that I'm living with every day, which is it's inevitable.
Oh
And
my gosh.
therefore, this is something I must go all in on. Because there are other people that may be depending upon this that won't even know me.
No.
But maybe it improves their quality of life.
I'll raise you one. I think that what you're working on will save many lives,
Hopefully so.
because shelter is absolutely fundamental to everything else. And, with the state of the world as it is today, it's very clear what is happening and how the inability of someone earning an average or median salary in the United States, home ownership is, especially in in a world city like
Mhm.
Dallas,
Mhm.
right? Homeownership is it's like a figment of your imagination. I mean, like, it's like your
It's like,
imaginary friend.
oh, you want to? Sure.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, best of luck,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I think that what you're doing is a solution to an inevitable problem. And those are my favorite businesses because they serve massive needs in society as they are developing.
Yeah.
You know, we're not at the we're not at the bottom of the valley here, and we're
No,
not even close.
not even close.
I'm not trying to be pessimistic. You know, I'm a very hopeful, optimistic person, but I also believe in uh, objective observation
Mhm.
and the forecasting that it enables. Right. This is a challenge, right? We have a whole bunch of opportunities that are extremely promising as well, but we can't just focus on those. We need to be a bit more holistic and prepare for the if there's something that is inevitable, you know, our responsibility is to prepare for it.
Right. Prepare.
Prepare. Okay, a few different things. You have any final notes? I know we're kind of coming up on our time here today. There's just a couple of things that I want to be sure to share before we sign off here. What's on your mind?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we've pretty much touched on everything. I mean, we did plan to talk through, values and authenticity. I think we got there. But one question that I would like to ask and get like a very quick answer on is,
Mhm.
when do expectations help you stay true to yourself versus pull you away from your authenticity?
Right. So, thank you. Love this question. I'm in I've referenced this before, but I'm in a year-long leadership development program right now. Part of that program is creating and then refining both values and then based upon those values, guiding principles, right? And one of my guiding principles in the most refined version is a line from Hamlet, and it's to thine own self be true.
Mm.
And I think when your expectations have been thoroughly examined and when they come from your values, not your inherited values, but the values that have been formed in the refinery of your human existence and experience. I think that when our expectations relate to that measurement tool, they can be really, really helpful and healing even
Mm.
because we crave certainty. I think this is why comparison is such a seductive elixir for most human beings is because it is frightening to not know where we stand.
Yeah.
We know that we exist in a social hierarchy. It's very, very clear, you know, and in some societies, it's much more obvious even than it is here, where we have this kind of, social hierarchy determined by relative wealth. But there are also different class systems all across the globe. Anyways, all that to say, I think that whenever we take the time to reflect, if we are so fortunate to have the bandwidth to pause, assess, and create an expectation that makes sense for us, then it can serve us. And I think it's really, really important to recognize that it's possible that everything else is, I don't have a better term, garbage and potentially misleading.
Yeah. Distracting for sure.
Yeah.
That's what the process of like writing a book taught me
Mm.
is that, regardless of the feedback that I get, at least I got the chance to do that for myself.
Yeah.
Right. And I think if people read it, it will facilitate that process within. They'll start to actually think through like, wait, wow, let me think about that in my life. Right. And at that point it's just it's progeny.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. it's so ironic that you just ended on that note of progeny too, because you just made me think of the example we opened the show with, which is the kid staring in the elevator, right? And your recommendation, I was like, what if we advise, like, say hello?
Right.
That's a courteous and polite way to kind of augment the behavior a little bit so it's more socially acceptable while not stifling curiosity and creativity. And you're like, hey, how about you lead by example?
Yeah.
And I think that's what you've done with your book is you have you've become this exemplar of what it means to reflect on your experience and to allow it to improve you.
Yeah. And the people involved in that experience.
Yeah, the participants in the environment.
Yeah, I agree.
So two things that I want to share. Number one is I've been thinking about this. Our entire podcast recording today is Michelangelo and how he talks about the masterpiece within every block of marble. And that, and to expand on this metaphor, thinking of life as the chisel, essentially. And the irony is that we, the observer, the first person perspective, are both the masterpiece inside the block of marble and the artisan that is using the chisel to chip away at the stone. Because life is it's gonna chip away at you. But
boy, is it.
How we leverage that to reveal our masterpiece, it's up to us. And I just want to give you credit where I think it's due, because I think that you've really done that well. And I feel like it's a privilege to observe you in the process of doing that. And I know we're going to look back at this next year and we're going to laugh and we're going to enjoy it. And the victory is going to be so sweet.
Yeah.
Because there was true pain and sacrifice. Okay?
Yes, I agree.
Second thing that I wanted to say is, have you heard Double Slit by Josiah Ball? You can find it on Amazon. I just got to lift my guy up here because I'm just incredibly proud. I have, since I was 13 years old, dreamt about writing something that added value to the world. And I have abstained from doing that largely due to, distraction and achievement, but also fear.
Yeah.
Of what if it's not well received? What if I don't like it? What if I think it's no good? And sometimes the gift of life is to have someone in your life that just goes out and does it and shows you that it's possible and says, to hell with the risks.
Yeah.
I accept it because this matters to me.
Right.
This is worth doing.
Yeah. We got like 2 minutes, but very, very brief story. So yesterday, or like last night, I'm working through some stuff, and there's a woman in my building. She purchased the book, and she texts me. She's like, "Oh, this is like really good." Like, and I'm like, "Oh, really?" And so I'm like, "Can I see it?" Because I had never.
Right.
Can I see the copy? Because when it came out, I couldn't afford to buy it. I mean, it's very ironic.
I love that.
But it was so good to hear that, it resonated with her. She said, "This is very intimate."
Yeah, it is.
Like, but also it's very relatable. Like, there are people that I work with that I would like to actually have these conversations with. And, at the time, I think she had read maybe, and she got it that day, but she started it and she was like, it's only 135 pages.
Yeah.
But she was on like page 30 something, 32, I think. And, she was just like, I've just been reading this, and it just makes me think about some of the work relationships that I have. And that was my main. Well, first, it was just an exercise that I felt that I needed to do for myself. But also, I think that there were people working in some of these environments that could get something out of it. and apply it to their own lives. So I'm very grateful to have someone already tell me that, but then also get to see a copy.
Yeah, in the flesh.
Yeah, so I'll be able to afford it here this week. So I'll get my own copy. But thank you for your generous compliments, and also, writing the forward. I think you did a great job on that.
Appreciate you. All right, and with that, thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.
All right, see you. The Enzo Project is brought to you by Bolt Human Capital and Noon Holdings. Edited by ELE. You can find the Enzo Project on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Music, the song Full Bloom by Jewel and Nuamina. You can find them wherever you listen to your music.